Surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, so the topic we're going to talk about today is basically pre-screening and questions. So I guess the secret to pre-screening is finding out a lot of information before you show up at your seller's house. So there is there's like a 2 or 3 step system that we use. When we originally end up taking a call, we will end up with a sheet that, let's see if I have this here. There's basically a lead sheet that gives us certain information. You know, where are they, email address, property, initial conversation that we have over the 15 minutes when you have somebody on the phone as a lead. From that point, it either determines, are we going to set a meeting or are we not going to set a meeting? And that really depends, you know, location and what their goals are. And I can share that questionnaire with you guys in a minute. Prior to the next step, I think they talked about was sending out a pre-listing package. So that's the package that talks about your unique selling proposition, who you are, who your team might be, all of the good stuff that goes into a nice big fat packet, either going out in the mail or going out in an email format. And I think that there have been questions and talked about that before. What we're going to kind of focus in on now is the next step between the time you've set the meeting and the time you've set the package out. And you're going to dig deep into all of the stuff that's going to make your meeting either a success, or I should say, also allow you to not step on landmines. So I'm going to share a screen here real fast. There we go. So this is the pre-qualifying script that has been out and about with Keller Williams now for years. I think I first came across this doing Win with Sellers quite a while ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. But this becomes a phone conversation, and it's a script. And you can either do this yourself, in other words, for the agent doing the meeting, that's up here. So that would be, you know, Allison, you're giving a call to your seller and you're saying, hi, this is Allison with Keller Williams Realty. I'm calling to confirm our appointment. Does this time still work for you? And then from that point, you're diving into a whole bunch of questions that's going to allow you to have a very successful meeting. You can also use this script with either an ISA or OSA or a virtual assistant calling. And this is, hi, this is Nolan with the Keller Williams Realty. I'm calling to confirm Tom's appointment. So you can have your admin do this as well. The questions that are on this sheet allow you to dig deep into the seller's mind and prep your meeting before you go. And there's a whole bunch of things on here that are data points, but there's also a lot of things that go unsaid. And this allows you to kind of get into their mindset. And I will tell you that when Nolan does this for me, or Denami has done this in the past, they're pretty much willing to tell you all of this stuff. So you end up showing up with this filled out, and you've been able to prep your meeting so that you know exactly what you're going to get into. So I want to go through a couple of these in the beginning. And can everybody see this? Just nod ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the number one question here, do you plan on interviewing more than one agent for the job to sell your house? How easy is it for you when you're going in to do a meeting if they say, no, you're the only person I'm going to interview? You were referred to us, you helped X, Y, Z, and we're not going to talk to anybody else. Okay, wow. Now you've all of a sudden got a clear playing field versus, oh yeah, you're one of 6 people that we're interviewing. Okay. If they say there's more than one, I ask them who, because I want to know who I'm up against. If they don't want to tell you, that's fine. You write it down, move on to the next one. These are not discussion points, but these are just data access points. So you're looking for their answer, but we're not trying to sell it this time. And that's why there's a admin that does this. It's a little bit easier because they're not in a selling situation. They're just there to get answers to the questions. Tell me again where you're moving to. That just reconfirms where they're planning on going. Number three tells you a little bit about their timeline. So how soon do you have to be there? If I sell your house in the next 30 days, would that pose a problem? Oh yeah, let's see, today's what, June 16th. Oh yeah, well, we really want to be here through Christmas because, you know, my husband's getting a big bonus at the end of the year and we need that to be able to buy our new house. So now all of a sudden it's like, okay, why am I seeing you in June if you're not going to be really needing to sell your house until November? So it changes the tone of the conversation. What would happen if your house did not sell? Now, this is an important question because if the house doesn't sell at the price they want to set it for, they're going to tell you what they're going to do. And this is always about a price question. So if they're listed at 500,000 and the house doesn't sell, they say, "Oh, well, we're just trying the market. We'll stay." All right. Well, that's one answer versus, "Oh, the house has to sell. I've already moved to XYZ and my family is still in Menomonee Falls and I don't want them living there because I've already taken a new job." The difference in those two answers talks about motivation, but then it also talks about how much you can press them on the price. Is it so much just shopping the market to see what they can get? It becomes a very different conversation than, "Oh, we have to sell our house because half of my family's already moved and we need to bring everybody back together." So the realistic price question, again, just gets them into the mindset. If they're not willing to listen to you or they're not willing to sell the house at a correct price, that brings up, okay, I need to really drill down on the price conversation. The price you won't go below. This also gets back into how much do you owe on the property. So I had one of these this morning. He owes $79,000. We'll be lucky to get 90 for his condo. So now all of a sudden you're having a short sale conversation. If they've thought about selling it themselves, now you need to have your conversation and your scripts around FSBO, because they might just be meeting with you to be able to get an idea of what their house is worth, and then they're going to turn around and sell it on their own. So if they come back and say, "Hey, I've never considered selling this on my own. I have a very busy job. I don't have time to do it. Never crossed our minds." Versus, "Oh yeah, well, we thought about it." And then you get there and you walk through the garage and you see the 5 FSBO signs sitting in the garage.
Seriously.
Yeah, CJ's laughing. I know he's seen those before.
Right.
Or you show up and there's a FSBO sign in the front yard, and it's like, okay, well, now you have to have a conversation about that. The help to finance the buyer, most of the time, you don't get seller financing. That's more common on investor side. Are you going to purchase another home, and do you need the money from this house to buy the next house? Yes. Part of that is where are you moving to? So one of the buyers that I'm working with now, they live in Madison, and that turned into a very nice referral for one of the agents I know from Bolden, Madison. So you're always, with the Keller Williams network, you are always looking for referral opportunities outside of this area. Are they current on their house payments? Well, this was a big question 8 or 9 years ago, where you would meet with people that might be 2, 3, 4, 6 months behind on their mortgage. Now you're having a conversation with them about either a short sale or stopping a foreclosure action. I would probably change this on, are you current on your house payments or have you gone into mortgage forbearance? Because the mortgage forbearance is going to end up becoming an issue in another month to 6 months or so, depending on when the forbearance wears out, where sellers are going to have to come up with a big chunk of money or else they're going to lose their house. So again, that was part of a listing meeting conversation this morning. He was considering doing it. So the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, those are all basically things about the house. And this is where you don't necessarily, you can look at pictures on Zillow, you can look at the previous listing, you can, ask them about the house. But the 12, 13, and 14, maybe those are going to tell you what kind of person they are. When I say what kind of person they are, think of the DISC profile. How many of you guys are familiar with the DISC profile? It becomes really important for you to know what kind of person you're working with and how to address them and how to interact with them. So if you ask this, will you quickly describe your house for me? You know, hey, it's 3-bed, 2-bath, exposed ranch. You know, we've been here 10 years. Versus a person who is like, oh, it's lovely. We have, you know, this in the bathroom, and oh, we just redid the kitchen, and this is a great place for kids. And you get a really long conversation that's going on 4 or 5 minutes. You know the difference between a D and an I. Or somebody who is a C is going to start saying, well, it's 2,735 square feet, and we figure it's worth between $116 and $127 per square feet. And we added this, this, and this for a total of $43,000, and now you're dealing with a C. So this will not only allow you to know how to talk to them on the phone, but then also interact with them, and then the type of material that you prepare. And when you're doing the walkthrough on the house with them when you get there, you'll know how you want to interact with them. Because I've worked with some high Ds, you go in, it's a 10-minute listing presentation. Is there anything else you want to talk about besides the price? Nope. Okay, well, here are all the numbers on the price. What do you think? That's great. Okay, sign here. Versus a high I, you might be spending a half an hour on the tour. They're going to show you where their kid has their little, you know, drawing in the closet, or they've marked the children's heights on the door jamb, and this is where we did Christmas in 2009. So you're really spending a long time. These 3 questions, these 4 questions will give you an idea of what you're talking about. Sending the package of information over where you take a few minutes to review it, that's setting them up to read all of the stuff that you want them to look at before you get there. So this is your unique selling proposition. Anything else that'll, you know, kind of speed up the, you know, the meeting when you are there. And if you're putting your package together, always put a couple, what I call it, copy errors in there. Anybody who's a high C will find them and redline them and bring them up to you. Just as a kind of a little bit of a you know, humorous anecdote, I've had people correct one of the pages in my pre-listing packet. Oh, you know, this is misspelled in this, and I'm like, okay, we're going to be looking at a lot of details here. The questions that you have before I arrive, that might end up being something about, you know, what are the top 3 things you want us to cover? So in other words, what are the 3 things that you really want me to address when I'm there? Write them down, and that becomes the focus of your conversation. Other decision makers, it really is hard when you get to a house and you go through something with someone and then they say, oh, well, I get away from my husband, wife, significant other. They're on a business trip, and we're gonna have to talk about this when we get back. It's really important to make sure that all of the, you know who is the decision maker and that they're all there. Because having somebody else as a decision maker, not part of the process, can completely derail it. You tell them the meeting is going to be 30 minutes, and then you confirm the time and the date. So we use this question very extensively, and it is amazing. It's like peering into your seller's mind before you get there. And then you can have all of your objection handling, all of your scripts, and any data points that you need on the front end. So it becomes it's a very, very useful tool for prepping on the front end. So I'm going to stop that share now. Figure out how to do this. Go to full screen. Apparently the folks at Zoom have been changing their application a little bit. All right, I'm going to stop for a couple minutes and kind of entertain any questions. Allison, do you want to unmute everybody, or can everybody unmute themselves?
I think everyone can unmute themselves.
Okay. There's a chat here. Oh, that was D and CJ. Okay. And again, I think I can probably put this form into the shared Google Drive that we have as a market center. And there's some other things on KW Connect about this. There's a gentleman in up in Michigan that goes through this very, very thoroughly. But it is the first time you do it, you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to ask them all these questions and they're not going to tell me any answers? And you'd be surprised how just completely cooperative people are. And they'll give you all the information, including, things like how much you owe on the property, et cetera, et cetera. Now, flip side of that is if someone says, to you so what's the price you won't go below? Well, I'm not going to tell you that. Okay, write it down. How much do you owe on the property? Well, that's not really any of your business. Okay, write that down. And you get through, the series of questions and you find that the person you're talking to is argumentative, they're confrontational, and they're not willing to share. Is that really a client you want to work with?
No.
Yeah. Really, you get on this and some people really start going off and everything. And again, it doesn't happen that often, but that would tell you right on the front end that this might not be the best person to get out, go out and see. It might not be someone you want to work with. And because there's nothing worse than working with someone who is not cooperative, is argumentative, and treats you like the enemy on a daily basis, because it will drain the life out of your day. CJ is smiling. He's been there before.
And that's why it's called pre-screening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it's I found it works really well. I have my Glover U pre-qualifying script, which is most of the same questions you just went over, Tom. And I have with me probably almost all the time this clipboard that you can store things inside. I keep a copy of this pre-qualifying script right in there so that no matter where I am, I'm driving around, you get that call. I don't have to, forget a question. I can just take it out and jot down notes and ask questions.
Mm-hmm. We've transferred our questions into a Google Drive or a Google form as well. So that way, if it's a close friend, somebody I already know, and it's like, I already know where they are on the DISC profile and how it'll be to work with them, I can always just send that over, or we can, have the conversation and I can fill it out as I'm talking to them. And that's been helpful too. And our questions are similar. Most of mine came from, I went to a WRA convention a couple years ago, and one of the major presenters there gave hers, and a couple of her questions were things like, how does somebody win with you? How does somebody lose with you? Yeah. And they'll tell you,
oh, absolutely.
That they'll tell you right how to. So, Allison, is there anything different that you do?
No, you guys are one step ahead of me. I actually, I have that script, but I don't read from it. So I do ask most of those questions. I just don't have the script in front of me all the time. But yeah, and I also I make those questions my own. I say, tell me what you love most about your home, because it's your very first phone conversation with them, and you're really, setting the bar for yourself. And so just really getting to know them and getting to know their house, I think, is extremely important.
Sure.
So it's more of a soft conversation for me,
it's definitely rapport building.
Yes.
And that's the reason a lot of times you do it verbally on the phone, because there's a lot that you can learn from listening to someone. I haven't tried doing this on a Zoom call yet, but in terms of listening to how they respond and how they react in their language, tells you a lot about how they are. This is a survey that goes out in the pre-listing package I'm going to share with you guys. So this is the survey that goes in their package, and we ask them to fill it out. And it goes over all of their demographics. So who they are, who's in the house, relationships, pets, how did you hear about us? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's important? How does somebody win with you? How does somebody lose with you? Right to expect. What do we have the right to expect from them? Selling the house information. And then favorites. So the 10 favorite things about the house and the 10 favorite things about their community.
Excuse me, Tom.
Yep.
Are you sharing your screen? If you are,
Sorry.
I can't see it.
Hang on. There we go. We'll start again.
Oh, thank you.
Pushing the button does make a difference. So this goes out. Yeah, it's been a long morning or a long day so far. This goes out in the packet as part of the letter. We give them a bag of popcorn and we ask them to fill this out prior to us getting out there for the meeting. So it has all of the information about their family and how they, do they use all of these different social media. Delivering a 10 experience. How does someone win and lose? What do you have the right to feel to expect from us, and what do we have the right to expect from them? Stuff about the home and other issues. And then their 10 favorite, seller 10 on both the home and then the community. And if you get there and you want to walk through the house by yourself and they haven't filled this out, any of you who have taken bold with the Diana Kokoska, I'm going to walk through the house myself. You guys can fill things out. This is one of the things that they can fill out. But it's really surprising how frequently you get there and this entire document is filled out. And then they give it to you and you can scan through it really quickly, and it gives you a whole bunch of data points that are really, again, very important for when you're doing your meeting.
It's an indication of motivation level 2. If you've given your seller a pre-listing packet and you get there to your appointment and they've already filled out their real estate condition report and any other homework you set them to in the packet, then you know that's a motivated seller who's pretty ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when you get offered a drink, i.e. water, coffee, tea, they have bought you. So the buy sign is when they offer you a beverage or refreshment of some sort. And that will come at different points in time during the meeting. And I've seen where we're going through stuff and then all of a sudden the light goes on and they're there and they're ready to buy. And they will typically offer you something to drink. Referrals will do it when you first get there. Others will be 2/3 of the way through the meeting. But that's a massive buy signal when they do something. They're basically reciprocating on the information that you've given them, and they want to establish a relationship, so it's a social bonding technique.
So I have, my assistant and I created about 20 pre-listing folders. I just have them all in my office, so it's ready to go, just grab and go. So when you open it, one side says a guide to selling your home, and it's binded and it looks all pretty. First page says what our team does properly, and then just fun things like high quality photography, ensure listing is posted to Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, all that fun stuff. And then get ready to list. There's things in there that explain the effects of how we price the house and how it's important to price it correctly. So anyways, then meet the team. There's some things about me and Libby, and then some reviews, what my clients say, a portfolio of excellence. So it's just my past sales, like what we listed it at and what it sold at and how many days it was on the market. And then just some professional photography photos in there. And then the next side, there is, similar to what Tom just said, but it's, questions for you. What are your 3 expectations from your realtor? How do you like to be communicated with? How frequently would you like to be updated? And then also going over some of the questions that I asked during the pre-screening process, but how much do you owe on your mortgage, future plans, things like that. And then I have the real estate homework, which includes filling out the list of improvements, and then things to know about the home. So any details, ages of the mechanicals, ages of appliances, things like that. And then I also, from my photographer, I have a pre-shoot checklist. So this is actually from my photographer. So it's just like, some of it is actually funny. toilet seats down, but anyways, it's, yeah, turn the ceiling fans off, blinds open, things to get your house ready for the photos. So that's what my folder looks like.
Good stuff.
Mine's also shiny and red. Shiny red folder. Got my homework on one side and my information on the other.
I've gone with black, but yes, it's the same concept. The thing that like the question, why do a pre-listing packet? One thing that we went to a Jay Schmidt seminar like last year at some point, and something that he said really stuck with me, and it was like, you do a pre-listing packet, you drop this information off, your marketing materials are in there, your bio, all about you, and then when you walk in the door, you don't ever have to talk about yourself, because it's not about you once you walk in the door. I think it's really about them and what are their goals and how can you help them meet their goals. But then they're not asking you, well, how long have you been in real estate? Because it's like, well, it was all in the folder you got ahead of time. And I think it's helpful for, when you come in and they already know a little bit about you.
And CJ, I know you do something cool. Do you still deliver flowers with your pre-listing packet?
Yeah, it depends on the character. If a recent one was a widow. So yeah, sent flowers, the pre-list packet, dropped it off at the florist ahead of time. They took it with them. So they delivered flowers and pre-list packet, which is just, mine's very short. I think it's 5 pages. It's right to the point, timeline, what to expect, who we are. And then there's a condition report that I always throw in there and say, hey, I love to make most use of our time. Please have this completed when I arrive.
Well, whenever we've done these pre-listing meetings, breakouts at family reunion or mega camp, the sad fact is that 1 out of 10 agents will actually send something out, anything. So if you get a 5-pager or a 50-pager, just getting it there and getting it there before your meeting, you'll be a stand ahead of most of the crowd. I mean, you've gone in on competitive situations where you sit down and say, hey, this is our packet, and you ask, did anybody else send anything else? Where you hear the comment, nope, nobody ever bothered, nobody sent anything, and immediately you stand out ahead of the crowd. I think somebody had put in the chat room, where are those folders? If you look on the KW, on the Command
Red
website,
Store.
Yeah, you can get it at the KW Red Store.
You can also, the front desk has them for sale as well. So if you want to
okay.
buy just a couple, because you can buy them in bulk from KW Red Store. Shipping's kind of expensive, so then you really buy in bulk. But the front desk has them for sale too. So sometimes I'll buy like 20 at a time.
Yeah, mine are just plain red folders, and I get them from Amazon, so I could get them cheaper that way. I do have stickers with my logo on them, so we could put my sticker on them, but mine are just from Amazon.
And there was a question too, somebody asked about putting info in there about movers or decluttering. So I don't know, let's see, Allison, you said that's a great idea. I don't know, Tom, do you put info in there? CJ, Lisa, info about movers
Follow-up.
or decluttering?
In the follow-up.
Follow-up?
We do that later.
Yeah.
What we really want to do when we're going in on the front end is that we don't give them contractor information or any of our vendor information, because again, with the FSBO, with the 5 signs in the yard, I had that happen one time where we went in, did the presentation, saw the signs in the garage, and then 2 days later, my stager, my mover, and the woman, Janelle, over at Units, all called me and said, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, I just saw them 2 nights ago. Oh, well, they're trying to sell their house on their own. They called. And my stager was a really good friend of mine. And, she just said, oh, yeah, these guys called and wanted me to come over and stage their house. And I'm like, interesting. So don't give out contractor information on the front end until you have a listing contract, because you might just be, if you get in and say, hey, the market's hot, things are selling real fast, I'll sell above list price, they might all of a sudden wake up and say, hey, there's no reason I want to pay this person $11,000. Let's try and do it on our own. Oh, they gave us this whole list of all these people that can help us do it.
Mhm. And then Peggy had asked also about the documents for this. So I don't know if it'd be easiest if like, you know, Lisa, Allison, CJ, Tom, if we're willing to share our paperwork. I don't know if we want to, you know, just consolidate it and send it out to anybody who wants it afterwards.
It's fine. I mean, all the stuff I got was from Keller anyway, and
Yeah.
the Win with
We
Seller
just
book.
Yeah, change things over time is what we've done.
Yeah.
You put your own stamp on it.
Yeah, you can
Yep.
get listing presentations in Command, and you
Yeah.
can modify them. I know the pages that I'm using were from Michael Lewis Marketing Suite, and I had tweaked them initially, and now they're in Command. We uploaded them into Command. Can I mention too, going back to the pre-listing questions that you ask on the phone, if you can find out, you know, if you are one of a couple agents who are going out there, they're interviewing multiple, if you can find out who the agents are, that's the best. And
Oh, absolutely.
if you can even come prepared, you can pull an MLS, you can find out, you know, what that agent's average days on market is and what their average list to sale ratio is. And when you can come armed with that and say, hey, look, you know, my list to sale ratio is 1.06 and theirs is, you know, 98%, and I sell mine in 7 days. So, you know, if you come armed with that information, you can make it really easy on them to pick. And if you're a new agent and you don't have stats, then use the office stats versus their office stats.
Or if you have a mentor, use your mentor's stats, because that's what I did when I was on my first appointment and I got interviewed, like grilled. And what were your sales last year? What did you know, how many transactions did you do? And like, well, I have nothing. But my mentor, I didn't say that I have nothing, but I said, well, I am being mentored by a top agent in our office, and his sales were 10 million last year. And so.
Oh, as Lisa had mentioned too, if you're going in against 3 other agents, see how much business they do, how many days on market. Take a look at their listings. Do they have any listings? Have they sold listings, or are they mainly selling buyers? Look at their pictures. So, you know, a couple agents in this area still don't do video or drone or Matterport. You know, they'll put 18 pictures in and you can tell they've taken them themselves. And that's not a way to set up on the, you know, in this market. Take a look at the other agents' social media. Do they have a business page? Do they end up doing postings? Do they post stuff into social media? I mean, there's a whole list of different things that you can look at in a competitive market analysis on somebody else. And you don't necessarily have to go in and bash them over the head with it, but when you're doing an example of something and saying, well, this is, you know, we hire a professional photographer, we do a suite of HD photos, we do a Matterport, we do a video, we do drone if it's a bigger property, and here are some of the things that we did. And, you know, a couple of these other agents, it looks like they don't even know how to use an iPhone or a camera. They still have the date and time printed in their photos. I mean, that's a kind of a older example. But you get some, they don't stage the house. The house looks cluttered. So there are a lot of very easy things to be able to do a comparison and contrast. And you don't have to dive into the numbers sometimes. Sometimes it's just a picture of the agent taking a picture of himself in the mirror in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and, you know, for people who've been around long enough and you've worked with enough buyers, how many times you see this picture of a flash going off and there's this agent standing there in the mirror in the bathroom taking a picture of the toilet?
Yeah.
I mean, is that really who you want to be selling your $500,000 house? And that's their idea of marketing. And it was one here in Mequon, the guy, I swear to God, he ran through the house and took pictures. There was a teenager just getting out of bed and he was half dressed in the picture on MLS.
Mm-hmm.
So again, depends on how competitive you want to get, but it's nice to know when you're going in against who you're going to go with. Against two is my point. So,
You can also kind of tell what order you want to go in based on how they answered the question. You know, when you ask them to describe their house to you, and you can figure out if they're a D or they're a C or an S. You know, if they're really quick and to the point and they've just given you bullet points, you probably want to be the first agent in because they're a quick decision maker. They
Yeah.
might not even make it to interviewing the other agents. And if they're a person who was telling you about Christmas and, you know, going on and on about, you know, the parties they've had and so forth, you probably want to be last because they want to collect all the info and they'd feel bad canceling on the others. So you want to be
Yeah.
the last.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a good
Should
thing
we-
right there. Like being first, being last, being second. I mean, if you get a busy schedule, let's be honest, you're not gonna be able to jump on it tomorrow. And if they're, say, have someone coming over tonight even, or right after you get off the phone, I do ask them, hey, do me one favor, since we just spent all this time talking with each other and getting to know you, getting to know your house, you getting to know me a little bit. I think it's a wise choice, wouldn't you agree, that before you sign anything, give me a shot, or at least hear what I have to say, a second opinion. That way, at least you get that opportunity. I just think it's good to set the stage because otherwise, you know, this just happened, for example, this past weekend with an agent that I know, and appointment was set on Thursday. I got there Saturday morning. Their appointment was Sunday. Saturday, I was there. I'm like, so if you like everything I have to share with you, are you ready to get the ball rolling? Oh yeah, but I was gonna go meet with another agent. So now I'm flipping this, right? And I was like, oh, who is that? I said, I'd be more than happy to cancel the appointment for you. Did get it listed. I did call them. At first, there was anger. And then I got a call back that said, how'd you do that? You know, after the tempers calmed, and it was like, wow, you just totally smoked me. And like, and I know them, they're very good. They set expectations just like I do. And they still got kind of burnt on it, you know, let's say. But I just think it's really, anyways, I just wanted to share that story with you. You know, there's always a way around it. It's another objection handling. Let's not all forget what the point of doing this pre-list package. I think you agree with me. It's to build the rapport. It's to find their why, find their motivation, stand out. I mean, if Tom sent you all that, wouldn't you be like, holy smokes, this person knows what they're doing? And then says, hey, I'm going to come over, take 30 minutes of your time. If they're in and out in 30 minutes, like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, got it down.
Well, it builds credibility.
Yeah.
And if you're advising someone, I mean, I had a hard conversation this morning with someone who, you know, what he thought he wanted to sell this property for and what it's actually going to get is about 30% less. That's a big number. So you have to have all your ducks in a row when you're having that conversation, and you tell them, hey, you know, we're on the same page. If we could sell it for that much, that'd be great. Problem is there was another unit in the building that sold for that amount, and that's going to be a comp because it sold 5 months ago. So you have all the information in front of you, and therefore you're not just trying to, you know, get them to list something so you can sell it quickly and move on. So all of the things that add to the weight on the scale of weighing you versus somebody else will lend them, you know, move it in your favor. But again, you can send them this big pack of paper. They don't look at it. You sit down and you say, hey, is there anything else other than you want to talk about other than price? Nope. And you're done in 5 minutes. But you've gotten all that there, and it's just the fact that it's sitting there. It lends credence to your story.
Yeah, just to add to that, if they're interviewing multiple agents and you're the only one who went to the effort of dropping off this listing packet, and that was enough to prove your hard work, you know, even before you got the listing contract signed, I think, you know, you're already, it's worth it. It's worth it to me to put together this packet and go through that, that time it takes, because it will help you win.
We've got about 10 more minutes here. Any other questions?
Brenda
Brenda
said, are you knocking on the door?
So it depends if I go or if one of the admin go. Most of the time you want to knock on the door and hand it to them. If you can, because if you leave it in the mailbox and they don't check the mailbox for 2 days, then you ask them when you get there, hey, did you find it? And then they run outside, oh, here it is. Or it gets dropped off at the wrong house, or somebody puts it in the mailbox and it gets wet, or any number of other things.
Postal person picks it up and charges the homeowner.
Or mails it back to you.
Seriously.
That
I got a
happened to us
bill
once.
once. So I was like, what?
Yeah, no
My
one
seller
swore he dropped it in the mailbox, and all of a sudden it, it wasn't there. I always bring another one with you, just in that case, to always have a complete packet with you. Maybe not with their name on it, but at least a backup. Because Nolan dropped one off about 2 years ago, and we had no idea what had happened to it, and then it showed up in our mailbox return, no postage, and they used the return address on the envelope and sent it back to us. I'm like, okay, here's a first for everything. The other thing is you don't have to do a listing presentation when you drop it off. You just, leave your car running, leave the door open, leave the lights on your car on, so that you're only there for 5 minutes. You say, hey, I was in the neighborhood showing houses and I have to go meet another buyer, but I just want to drop this off. And then you make nice with them, you talk, but then they're not inviting you in, you're not doing the presentation then. So it's like you just say, hey, I'm just dropping this off, wanted to make sure you got it. Here it is, and then I'll see you in 2 days.
Yeah, it depends on if I really do have the availability to drive over there and drop it off, depending on when the appointment was scheduled. But I have overnighted it before, and it's kind of expensive, but I have done that. Yeah. At the
Uber,
postal.
yeah. You can hire an Uber driver as well.
Never thought about that.
It might cost you $20, but you can hire an Uber driver and they'll drop it off.
Yeah, sometimes if there's enough time, we might mail it. And then sometimes I drop it off and I tuck it between, I put it inside their door or I put it under their front door mat. But then I tell them that I did that, so they go find it.
Yeah, when you do that, more and more people have those Ring doorbells. So make sure you look professional. Or if somebody's delivering it for you.
Yeah, that's true.
I've learned. It's probably not a day to wear something offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Maureen had said this a long time ago. That she said, whenever you're out in public, always look like the queen, because you never know who you're going to run into.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's surprising when you run into a client in the library or here or there or whatever. And, that's the impression of your business.
Something I did recently I thought was pretty cool is I tell them I'm going to drop it off. I'm going to leave it between the doors. I take it between the doors. I take a picture. I text to them. It's between the doors. And then now it's even cool with BombBomb. I'm sure you can do with Loom and other things. I do a quick little clip. I'm outside their house, literally put it in the doorway. I did this only once now, so I can't break too much, but I did it once. It was super cool. I was like, hey, just want to let you know I dropped off the package. I look forward to our appointment and seeing you whatever day this time. And until then, have a fantastic day. And then, you get a phone text and there's a video rolling. It's like, wow, that's pretty slick.
Showing mastery of technology, which is really important nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's confirming the appointment too.
Yep.
That was slick.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. Anybody have any last minute questions or thoughts? No, I think that is a no.
I have a question. I have a question, Tom.
Yes.
Would somebody be willing to drop one of their pre-packages in the other area where we're going to pick that up and look at it? The Dropbox. I think somebody said Dropbox.
Google Drive.
Google Drive. Google Drive. Okay.
Yeah, not the earnest money Dropbox.
Okay. All right. All right. So it's Google Drive, and it's with the scripts, and it would be with the packet pre-listing packet.
Yeah, there's one on contracts and forms, and then
The one spot for resources, is that
Correct.
what you're talking about?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a 1KW launch PC group resources. Does everybody know about this?
No.
All right, I'm going to share another screen here, and I'm actually going to click on my share screen. Because I just learned about this maybe a week ago. So in our market center has a shared Google Drive. It's called 1KW Launch. And there are all sorts of different sets of docs in here that Scott put in.
Yeah, so if
So
you want
there-
access to that, just email Scott himself, and then he'll add
Yeah.
you to the list.
I think Allison gave it, or not Allison. One of the people in the market center just sent this over as a link. But there's a whole bunch of different things in here, and we can put all this stuff in here under listing presentations, or even create another folder for pre-listing, and just drop everything in here.
Does anybody know is this just a substituted name? It used to be called One Source for Resource or something like that.
Don't know.
The one spot for resources is still there, Rachel.
Oh, so there's two of them now?
Possibly. I don't think I have the one spot for resources. That sounds like a different one.
Do you want me to?
Great. Yeah. You want to send that over? I can take a look at it and figure out of the two.
I
Yeah.
can,
It'd just be good to have a follow-up seeing where to find this stuff. I'm sure somebody could probably at some point organize it, but there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, no, there absolutely is.
One spot, just one spot.
Oh,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's always the challenge when you start getting a whole bunch of stuff. Where do you keep it? How do you organize it?
Tom, if you go into shared with me and you just type in one spot, you'd probably be able to pull up the one spot.
Yeah, actually, that file you're in is actually inside of one spot.
Oh, so what's the name of this file again? Tom?
1KW launch PC group resources.
Okay.
Even just go into the one spot for resources and click around in there, because there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Right.
there's stuff in command. There's stuff in a whole bunch of different areas. You can find just copious amounts of this. So it really becomes just find something, personalize it, throw it in the drive, and use it. But there's 20 different iterations of a lot of the same stuff. However, we'll figure out where this goes. So at least I'll take a look at it and see if I can find it.
Thanks again, guys.
All right. Well, everybody have a good day today. All right. We'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Allison?